Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Pinball Arcade. So I wanted to show off this logo at the start here. Look in Pinball and look at that reflection. Now of course this is just a static rendering, but it does kind of border on false advertising of the game. And we can see also this is made by FarSight Studios, because even if it was true that the reflections actually were that accurate when playing the pinball tables, you never would actually see it because the pinball would be so far away from each other. Today we're going to be playing Haunted House. We've worked our way up to 1982. It was designed by John Osborne and is widely considered an iconic pinball game with its innovative features, beautiful graphics, and haunting sound. This was the first table to have a triple level playfield that was accessible by one ball. That's an odd sentence, certainly. So there was a triple level playfield in existence before, it just wasn't accessible by one ball. 3 playfield levels represent the cellar, main floor, and attic of the house. I assume if they mean triple level playfields, they mean a lower under the table playfield and an upper above the table playfield and the main playing field. Uh, yeah, they represent the cellar, the main floor of the attic, and the attic for haunted house. Players uh, use 8 flippers to move their balls through the 3 floors of spooky fun by shooting up and down ramps, tubes, and trapdoors that lead from one room to the other. Come inside, but be warned, you'd best not play alone. 6,835 units of the table were produced. So it does seem to me like this is going to be a case where you're going to have a lot of flippers going on and just a lot of stuff going on in general. It's like they tried to introduce the concept of 3D chess into pinball. Um, the upper playfield does look fairly interesting. Like, do we have a pro mode here? No. So, once again, one of the better tables or more iconic tables in that first generation that doesn't have a table exploration mode. First version of the software. Um, so the upper playfield has flippers that flip the opposite direction. So one assumes that the one on the right is controlled by the right button, but it might actually be the exact opposite. It might be that the flipper tilted towards the left is controlled by the left flipper, even though it is on the right between the pair in the upper playfield. There's a lot of standing targets and drop targets in one bumper, which means that they've had to kind of sneak a second bumper to the left side. The top lanes seem to also have like drop down uh, points that seems like you almost certainly will start the game in the cellar. And so, yeah, there's like 2 completely disconnected bumpers on the side, which I guess I have to really applaud that design, because that means that they've been able to cram this table with things to hit. Like there's just not really even a little bit uh, of an option here as far as empty space. Um, hmm. It actually, from the looks of it, looks like if you get the in lane on the right, it'll pop the ball back up to the upper playfield, but almost certainly then drain in the upper playfield back down to what I think is the cellar. If you get the top lane in the middle, it seems to indicate that that will actually end up on the main playfield. But if you get the top lane on the left, it seems to go down to the cellar, which I guess that's an interesting way to keep things varied. There's a trapdoor ramp, and there's clearly something under the upper playfield, but it's probably just a loop or a target. We pretty much won't ever be able to see what's down there. Yeah, it looks like it's a sinkhole. They really did just cram a lot of stuff here. Well, I suppose we can't change the game setup. Let's look at the flyer and then let's hop into the game. This clearly would have had to have been influenced by the movie Psycho. This looks exactly like the Psycho house. Now, it might be in '82 that Psycho hadn't come out yet, but I think it probably had. If I were to guess, I imagine the original Psycho came out somewhere in the late 70s. And then they're showing it kind of disassembled as far as the upstairs and the main floor and the cellar, but then they're still not really showing what is hidden under the upstairs. It's a concept really that feels like it, and once again I've accidentally used the skin. It's like double flippers. I kind of think that's a little extreme and unnecessary. You've already got too many flippers. If anything, it feels like this is a case where they have. So yeah, that center drop down does just keep you on the main playing field. And they pretty much don't want you on this playfield. While there is some stuff here, this looks fairly incredibly generous. I don't even think there is a right out lane, or there must be one, but I don't know how you would actually hit it. The flippers are flipped, so the flipper on the left is with the left flipper in the upper playfield. It seems like there's an out lane there, but maybe that is just for artistic balance. I really don't see it. Oh, and that does bounce it in such a way that it can get over the bumper. I was thinking that the way that would have worked would have changed a lot. Notice that this is a table that doesn't seem to be talking to you. And unlike the previous lower playfield table, this one still is reversed, but it kind of goes foggy, and I'm wondering how they would even pull that trick off back in the day. It seems like that's a much more playable playfield. It doesn't seem like we have a kickback. It doesn't seem like we have, yeah, we don't have a center post. Notice how the camera is also moving. And I imagine there might not be a way to avoid that in that case, where the camera didn't seem like it moved in black hole. Oh, I guess the only way you can drain the out lane on the right is if that upper pinball flipper now right now I'm just kind of playing around and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, which, yeah, that can always be a problem with mini tables. it does seem to just kind of launch the balls on the table and not drain it towards a flipper. Seems to just kind of drop it down. Clearly, when they were designing this, they had over-ordered the number of flippers that they needed, and they were trying to make up for that. We can see like a 1, 2, 3. Yeah, yeah, that's how you drain the right out lane. I don't know what kind of voice you would have even put here, unless you're gonna get a license with Casper. I mean, you could go boo hoo hoo and make some Vincent Price-esque sound effects, certainly, but I don't know if that is necessary. Yep. And that extra flipper on the right is actually a trap. I gotta say though, I love that they didn't just decide to have only one bumper on the main, no bumpers on the main playfield at all, and they didn't decide to just have a bunch of empty space, which I could have seen them doing that, certainly. I have no idea if there is even a multi-ball on this table. If there is a multi-ball, I think it probably is going to be through hitting very specific targets, and maybe the upper playfield drop targets, and then the lower playfield drop targets. This definitely is a table that also feels like it would have been earlier than some of these other tables we've seen already. It once again highlights just how long it took them to actually develop a table design, that you would come out with something that's technically newer, and yet it feels older. Which I guess arguably that might mean in its heyday, pinball aged very quickly. This is one of those tables where you have to just light everything before you actually can accomplish anything. And while I enjoy the ball bouncing around randomly as much as the next person, I would like to actually be able to have a goal and have a focus. So yeah, I assume what you want to do is, for a skill shot, is always end up on the far right top lane and get into the upper playfield, and then drain to the lower playfield, and then get back up to the upper playfield. All I see right now is a blinking 1. So am I supposed to hit that standing target? Or is it more important to get to the lower playfield and hit that? It is slightly confusing to have the upper playfield flippers flipped like that. I guess they're kind of flipped in a different way in the lower playfields, but that's more something I'm more familiar with, so so I'm used to assuming left always means left. And honestly, in that upper playfield, because there's a bumper between the two flippers anyways, you might as well just go wild and just do that. Yeah, you might as well just do this. If you're not particularly good now. Of course, doing that also is a great way to show that you're not a pinball pro and you're not lining up your shots. Super easy to drain out from the lower playfield. There definitely is a theme here of movement, which I think isn't even particularly accurate for the idea of sneaking around a haunted house, because it kind of feels like you're running around a haunted house, not doing the Scooby-Doo walking on eggshells, walking on your tippy toes type action. You could have definitely done a table like this and themed it differently. Fathom as a theme, getting to the different depths of the ocean on a 3-level table would work too. Although I'm not sure how interesting underwater themes are. There are just too many areas I'm noticing here that I can't really hit. So we hit all 3 of the light ups for the score multiplier on the lower field. We've got a blinking one on the left, middle of the table. We've got, apparently that increased the multiplier to 5 times, something I hit. I don't know if that was the green light standing target or what. But that still is not lighting the lower ball lock. So that got me a decent amount of score, but this is definitely not a high scoring table either. It has only 6 digits. We're just back to the blinking green one. I wouldn't say I hate the sound effects here, but they are fairly repetitive. Finally got the blinking green one. Can we now get the blinking green too? There is kind of just that problem of, since the ball is moving around so much, you very possibly are not going to reach or even be close to hitting your target. A lot of times you're going to be so far away from it. I could see a more modern table here trying to make some improvements on this by having the ball be more randomized. A mechanism that would determine where it's going to launch from and kind of rotate where it launches from. Like an elevator, thematic concept. Oh, apparently there's a trapdoor sinkhole directly behind that ramp, which that is something that often is a issue, is that you have to have some way of adjusting for if the ball accidentally gets stuck right behind the ramp. I'm just trying my hardest to get that too. This game does have music, but it's kind of 8-bit chiptune music. This really is a table that would have benefited from being able to explore the table or have ball control. Like, because there's definitely things here that it would take me a decent amount of time to hit. And in a funny way, this really is just a case that the gimmick is too big and too focused on this table. I'm not hating this table, like all the 80s tables up until this point. They've all been fine. It's just they aren't, when they're not something that I'm slightly nostalgic for or that grabs my attention. It's very much a case of, well, I could see myself coming back and playing this every now and then, but I really wouldn't want to put hours and hours into a table like this. I don't think I'm particularly the biggest fan of upper play fields anyways, and lower play fields. I'm probably slightly bigger fan of lower play fields than upper play fields. Just because lower playfields tends to be bigger and more pinball-like, where upper playfields tend to be almost toy versions of pinball tables. I don't understand the standing targets in the upper playfield. Of course, I could read the instructions, but do I really want to invest the time on that? Because there's, like, at the start of the game, one lit standing target in the upper playfield. Hitting that lit standing target doesn't seem to unlight it, and nothing I've done seems to rotate or change it. There seems to be no ABC lane at all in the top lanes, and no lane control or rollover targets at all. In a weird way, because you're always transitioning from the lower playfield in and out more than anything else, you end up hearing that sound effect, those two different sound effects, the in and the out sound effect, far more often than you should. I like the fact that there's a bit of a curve, but I think that bit of the curve on the left out lane probably does also increase the odds of you just completely boning it up and and draining into the out lane from the left, particularly above that bumper. But I suppose since the bumper's there, it is helping. And we at least see some blinking things that we're supposed to be hitting now, after I got the 1 and 2 all lit. I don't know what I was supposed to be hitting there, but that seems to have gotten me a shoot again. Ball did not make it, so there probably is just a whole ramp back there. I did seem to have some things flashing now that are different. But the 1 and 2 are still not a factor. Okay. Hitting the drop-down targets in the top lane lights up more of the standing targets on the other side, which I don't think is a great system by any means, because that pretty much means you'd have to get really, really lucky or really, really good at bouncing the ball back and forth. They lost the blinking double scoring element. You just don't really get a lot of points in the underscore at all. It kind of doesn't even have a good argument to have 6 digits. It probably could be a 5-digit area. Still just trying to hit things. If there's a multi-ball, it must be hidden behind a lot. I mean, I would have a hard time believing there is a multi-ball here. And see, that's kind of a great example of why this table needs talking, and pretty much every table needs talking, is because you need the game to tell you go for multi-ball, which is actually a phrase we haven't even heard used yet, but it's something that I certainly have heard from other tables. But just letting the game tell me this is what you're targeting, this is what you're trying to shoot for. So I got double scoring at that point. So there must be something I had done on the upper playfield that unlocked double scoring. Because coming in from that angle doesn't unlock double scoring. That's a fairly safe shot to bounce the ball back to where it just came in that case. And there's like a little spider web on the glass. I'd like to hit that sink area on the right. It wasn't blinking though at the time. That's probably like an extra ball, if I was to guess. I was to guess, that probably is an extra ball that blinks. And if that was an extra ball, I must have gotten it. So did I get all the standard goals? No. To earn an extra ball. Extra balls can be earned by shooting the right side kicker on the main floor when it's lit for an extra ball. Completing the bank of drop targets in the attic. Completing the bank drop targets in the cellar. Or completing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order on the main floor. So there's a 5. Where's 5? Is it way back there? Lights the extra ball. Each time any target or switch is hit on the main floor, the extra ball toggles on and off. Shoot the right side kicker to earn the extra ball. You can earn a maximum of 1 extra ball per play. Then there's a special, we lit that. And that's just a special. Completing the bank drop targets 3 times up here, lights that. So very unconnected areas too. So there's been, excuse me, there's been several times where we have made progress enough to light extra ball, and we just haven't been lucky enough to actually sink it. And that creates a weird scenario where if I am just going to look for extra balls, I need to get to either the upper playfield and pull off all the bank targets, or stay on the main playfield and light the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think you light extra ball by hitting these bank targets, nor can you get considerably high score down here. This lower playfield is sadly not really well designed for score. It's not where you want to be. And I think the layout of your goals and just the flow of the game really hurts this table. It feels like you could easily, without even moving anything or changing anything, just program the different targets to have different meanings and improve it. For instance, like on the lower playfield, that side standing target should probably be something that you hit once, and then for 10 seconds it lights a ball lock at the top, or lights the special at the top if you're not gonna have multi-ball. I kind of hate that a table from even 82 doesn't have multi-ball. But you know, that could have easily been it. And then a ball lock behind the bank of targets in the top play field for an upper field ball lock for multi-ball would be appreciated. There is a certain level, if they just multiplied all the scores by 10, it would feel like a more modern table also. You might change the angles a little bit on the side 1 and 2 standing targets, because those are fairly difficult shots. They don't need to be super angled. you could easily have gotten rid of 2 of the 4 extra flippers here on the main playing field, because they're not doing anything really. A flipper that is almost directly next to another flipper does not really add any power or to your shots, or really much of a different angle to your shots. Because remember, the whole thing about pinball is that if you're going to be good at pinball, you're going to be able to get the ball to hit almost anywhere on the table from the 2 original positions of the flipper. Like, it's kind of the equivalent of giving someone like 2 extra hands when they were 50 years old and they had already spent their entire life using only 2 of their regular hands. Like, it's just going to be awkward, and they're going to be unfamiliar with using the extra hands. I suppose it could be fogged because it's an LCD screen, and they're just running current through a smoky LCD screen. But I would almost think that would be completely black if that was the case. They have that every now and then, where their privacy glass for entire walls, where you can press a button and the screen will go dark. This is another one of these tables, though, that is hard to put down, and I probably could get all the standard goals, but yeah, I kind of also could see myself just quitting. So let's give it like one more game and then move on. This is not really a table I would say is a favorite. It's a table I would go back and play, but I'm gonna try and keep my favorite list somewhat more curated than that, at least to start with. I may end up deciding to go back and increasing it. I guess the question is, should the list of favorites here be a list of tables that you like to play every now and then, or should it be just every table that you don't absolutely hate? I suppose I never really have used favorites properly in any case. Picking a favorite's not something that comes easy to me. Remember, all we're trying to do really is get the extra ball. There's the 1. Now we gotta get the 2. I would say for the theming of this table, even though we couldn't really do a table exploration and look at the art, it is very much an empty mansion as much as it's a haunted mansion. All we've got is these little wisps of white ghosts being shown, and maybe furniture being alive. But there's no main ghost banshee character. There's nothing humanoid, no mummy, nothing None of the other Universal monsters, no vampires. If it is, I suppose, just supposed to be ghosts. It feels like there should have been more of them and more iconic depiction of them than just what would have, I guess, in '82 made a lot of sense, which is to just have wisps of ghosts. A Casper license for this table would have made a lot of sense, because then you could have had Casper the Ghost and friends, as it were. Alright, get that side extra ball. There's also no humans, so no victims of being scared by the ghost. So what's the point of a haunted mansion if there's nobody there? There's a creepy crow in the backboard art, but that doesn't play in any way, where you would have liked to hear some sound effects. The music design for this table is pretty bad. They're playing some already composed bits of music, and that's it. And this is Haunted House. I know Disneyland has a Haunted Mansion section. Let's see. Yeah, it would make a lot of sense for there to have been a sound effect of crows or bats or lightning or storm effects. Anything to even try to implement that. Flashing lights on the table to be lightning, a lightning spinner. Would have been interesting too. You can see from the art there's a headless man, there's floating heads, there's a banshee character all being depicted, and spiders. There's just one spider web on the entire table. You really would have had to use your imagination on this table. Maybe they didn't want it to not be too family friendly, and maybe that would make some sense, but overall it just kind of seems dull. And the concept that triple play fields means triple fun, I just don't really agree with that. Which is funny, because what this inherently puts me in is a position to say is that I'm not super thrilled with Haunted House. In all fairness, maybe my nostalgia for tables blinds me to an objective opinion, which is kind of an oxymoron in itself, because I think a lot of people probably do love Haunted House, but it was just not a table that I played when I was playing the last pinball game that I played, nor is it a table that I've ever played in the real world. And see, that may drastically just change my feelings. Our next chance would be Space Shuttle, which is a game I did play, so I'm fairly certain I will love that one. But we also have 3 tables here that I also could find more interesting. If anything, I would say it sometimes comes down to the Baileys versus Williams versus Stern versus Gottlieb, and at a certain point William and Bailey's merged. So it may come down to the company that made the table. It may come down to the actual person that designed the table. It also could very well be a case that you could make the argument pinball tables are almost like art pieces, and they're just drastically different even from the same company that produces them. And so one table may get one person's attention while another table may not. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.